try but, should just not. Try gives us, I'm going to try. Until one is committed, there's hesitancy, a chance to draw back, always ineffective. You know, if I try, am I committed? No. Because if it doesn't matter, if I'm just trying and it doesn't work, then, you know, there's certain things you will try. Hey, try this chocolate bar. That's a different perspective. I'm going to try to spend more time filling my bucket. You ain't going to do crap, right? But, so we just talked about but. Should, actually, you know, for me, you should on somebody, it's resistant. It's pushing a wet spaghetti noodle across the counter. It doesn't work. And right away, everybody's tail feathers goes up when you should on them. Don't should on people. Just is justifying. If I have to justify what I do, then I'm just trying to feed my ego, you know.
Two things coming here this morning,
Okay.
that were on my mind. I want to say first, thank you. Thank you for accepting, you know, the invitation to come here and talk about being a better man. When I, you know, in my invitation to you, I said, you know, when I think about someone that exemplifies who I want to be more like, you know, the type of people I want to surround myself to become the average of, I couldn't think of a better person than you. So thank you for accepting.
You're welcome.
The first thing, when you picked the date that occurred to me, that is pretty significant, is, you know, this is, people are going to see this long after today. But today, when we're getting together to do this, is Remembrance Day. The day where we, whether we realize it or not, get together and collectively remember better men and women who paid the ultimate price. So I want to talk about that a little bit. And the other thing that is on my mind, that somehow in this conversation I'd like to kind of dwell on a little bit, not in a negative way, but in a constructive way for everybody. The thought that I've had is, after losing someone recently, a young man who was 19 years old that took his life, who was very near and dear to my heart and to my family. The thought I had coming here today is that when we look at the stats and the numbers and what they tell us, is that young men today are in desperate need of role models that can show them how to deal with the stress and the ordeal that is life, and to win that fight by getting up every single day and squeezing every ounce of awesome out of every day you can, rather than letting it take you and destroy you. And I think that's part of being a better man as well. So
100%.
Let's kick off with your thoughts on that, on those two things.
When you spoke of those things, I could feel my, let's call it an energy center, let's call it whatever you choose, but my stomach was just churning in excitement, because there's truthfulness behind it, and what we can do as good human beings, good men, good women. So let's just talk about November the 11th.
Yeah.
And what I love what you said is, on the 11th hour, the 11th minute, on the 11th day, we pay tribute to those who gave us an opportunity for what we have today. And what I love about what you said, and just visualize what everybody's going to do at 11:11. They're going to stop for a moment of silence. They're going to pay tribute to that for 1 minute. And then they're going to get on with their shopping cart and off they go. What was I looking for? Where was I at? How was I? So remembrance becomes something that is momentarily, and I believe, this is my opinion and my belief, that in order to make it more attached to and the feeling of, like, think about what they did for us sitting here today, whether it be in any of the wars, or whether what Indigenous people have gone through. If I just take 10 seconds of that time and then am clouded by the 23 hours and 59 minutes of all the crap, how much time have I contributed to the remembering piece of doing that? And that's why I love, I love some of the things that you're bringing up, is in terms of, what it is with a crow or a symbol to remind us, or something to continuously attach us to. Like, if you ask me today on a remembering piece, I'm going to remember close to 1,000 times today of who, what, when, where, why, the stories, the pains, the laughter, the cheers, the crying, the sacrifices, the celebrations. Oh my gosh, he's home. Oh my gosh, he's not coming home. How do I support the family that's not coming home and still pay tribute and celebrate with the family of people that did? And that's where you and I have an opportunity to be that better human being, better man, better woman, by remembering, yet remembering in a manner that keeps us in that state of love and respect for one another. When you asked what day it was, I didn't just go, oh my gosh, this is November 11th. That is going to be something we can put on a video and we can have a conversation about, and the world's going to think, wow, these guys are amazing. No, it had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with the perspective of honor for those who have done what they've done to allow you and I to have this conversation, to allow us to be inspired, to allow us to become aware enough to really pay tribute to the sacrifices that those people and whatever situation was involved gave to us. And I truly believe it is a gift. That when I was driving up here, they were playing the trumpets. I get, I just did right now, I got truth bumps. Because there's such a, while the trumpets are playing, there's music being heard, yet the spirits that are involved in that whole triumphant and somewhat mournful but remembering piece, you can't, I just got it again. Mm-hmm. That's where you have that awareness to become somebody that can make a difference. And you can't just do it once. It's continuous. You talk about remembering, and I was very fortunate to go to Rwanda. We went through Developing World Connections, and I'm sure you've heard of that. Went down there and helped build a community center. It's not about what we did. It has nothing to do with what we did. And I remember going into a lot of the places, they have open pits with the hundreds of thousands of people that were killed during that genocide there. And I remember saying to one specific person, because we had gone down inside and it's just lined up with skulls, and they've even got their clothes in the hatchets. And I said, why? Like, why would you want to come back and endure this pain? And Stephen said to me, and he looked me dead in the eye, and he said to me, we've forgiven Shawn. We just don't ever want to forget, so that this never occurs again. Remembrance Day is something where we can sit and say, the sacrifices and the things that people did, we don't want to have to go through that again. And we have such an opportunity now to go one way or another, because there's an energy turmoil. And yet by remembering and honoring, it feels a hell of a lot better than the alternative. A lot better. Anything I could add to that? Or you got any input on that one?
Is life cyclical, where these things are just destined to just keep happening again and again and again as part of human civilization history? You know, we seem to, advance as a human race and then go backwards, and advance and go backwards, and it's escalation and war after escalation and war. And I remember growing up at school, they taught us to hide underneath the desks.
Yeah.
And the bell would go off, and you hide underneath the desk and put your head in your lap and kiss your goodbye, because as if hiding under a desk is going to help.
And think about that too, because hiding under a desk now. So what did they come up with? Do you remember what they came up with about the idea of hiding? So if earthquake hit and you and I hunkered underneath this coffee table and the ceiling collapsed, what would happen with you and I?
Well, we'd be buried under the rubble. I mean, we'd
We'd
suffocate long before they dug us
Oh,
out.
we'd be flattened like a pancake.
Yeah.
Versus now they say try finding something triangular. So there is a progression of. There is an opportunity. Yes, we'll repeat. We'll repeat. Yet it's people like you and I who have an opportunity to make a difference, to be that better individual, to be called the crazy ones, because we're the ones that can make the difference. But you need to be there. See, I get excited. I will sit back a little bit.
No, this is good. No, this is good.
Because if you study anything, Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius, you go back 2,000 years ago, and you read them. So, do you know anything about Marcus Aurelius? So the book called Meditations that he wrote wasn't for anybody. That was his diary. It wasn't meant to get in the hands of anybody else. Yet the brilliance of it. So you read through some of it's like hard to understand, and it's been transcribed so many different ways. There's probably opinions put in there too. Regardless, I still like what it is. Yet I'll read something that's 2,000 years old and go, why are we? He's already figured it out. This was 2,000 years ago. There's a solution to the piece. He talks about love. He talks about leadership. He talks about all these things to be a better man, and yet we're recreating a wheel. We've heard that story so many times. Why would you recreate the wheel? We do it. How many times have you been in a conversation or a meeting or something, and you're like, there's already an answer to that. And we want to become judgmental towards it. Yet in our own awareness, you and I having these conversations makes a difference. You could sit with your head on the pillow and have these conversations in your head and never share them with the world. Great idea. Ideation without execution is mere delusion. A good idea and a couple bucks will get you a nice cup of coffee. This is what helps to make a difference. Collaboration with those. You and I might sit here and somebody might say, oh my gosh, that conversation was absolutely brilliant. Yet I remember doing some facilitation and looking at it, looking out into the crowd and stepping away from my ego and saying, there's more brilliance sitting out there than there ever is here. Right now I'm just a conduit of being able to do what I need to do to assist those and offer something back for the betterment of the world. And sometimes I have to do this, Peter, because when I sit on my hands, I don't become an advice monster, I become a good listener.
It reminds me of the story of the Starfish. The guy out on the beach.
I love this story.
Right?
Please, I love to hear it. Even just, I know exactly what you're, I know, I've read it a million times, I know it. Please share it.
Okay,
As
so
best you can. Do the Peter
version.
definition, for sure.
There's a guy on a beach, and he's surrounded by millions of starfish, and he's picking them up one at a time and chucking them out into the surf as the tide is going out. And another passerby comes along and can see him from a long way off, and it takes several minutes for him to walk up to him, and in that time the guy is chucking starfish after starfish after starfish and not making even the fraction of a dent in the ones that are surrounding him as the tide continues to go out. So the passerby goes up to the man when he finally gets there and says, what are you doing? Why? Why bother? You're not going to make a difference. And the man says, yeah, I know. Reaches down, picks up a starfish, holds it up to the man and says, but I will with this one. And chucks it out into the surf.
Yes.
So one side of me says, yes, I'm not going to make a difference with all of the vast sadness and despair and turmoil that the world is experiencing out there. But maybe I will with one person. Mm-hmm. And that one person just makes it all that worthwhile. That's that.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about earlier. That's the angel on one shoulder, and the demon in the other ear is whispering, yeah, but will there really be even that one?
That's a good emotion. Because here's another problem with society, is we suppress instead of express. So if I'm having a bad day, why would I blow sunshine up my ass? Why wouldn't I pay tribute to the fact that my emotions aren't at 100%, and if I accept that, there's not an internal fight. So if I say, Shawn, how are you? I'm not all that great today. The perception of the individual is, why? Well, because I'm being honest with myself, and I'm not going to fight the emotion, I'm going to honor the emotion. And if I honor the emotion, I can be hopeful about what's coming up. If I'm angry and I'm upset and I'm hurt and I'm full of anxiety and I'm like walking around trying to BS myself, I'm lying. And if I can't be honest with myself, how am I going to be honest with anybody else? So if I honor, I truly believe, to answer your question, to honor those both pieces is what creates the awareness. We can talk yin yang, we can talk, polar opposites attract. There's something that that's a law of cause and effect. So you could just, Lisa gets so upset with me because if somebody disrespects somebody in the grocery line at the grocery store, Shawn goes and says, "Excuse me, sir, that individual does not deserve to be treated that way, and I'm not going to stand here and let you disrespect that." And Lisa gets upset, but more from a fear piece, because she goes, "Shawn, I don't want somebody to jab you." That would be the worst jab they've ever jabbed, because it just would be. And I'm not being, I'm a tough guy. There's such a presence to being able to, being that my inner self, my higher self, gives me the opportunity to, I don't go up like a sumo wrestler, "Listen, buddy," because then you're just going to end up in FU fights, which nobody wins anyways. It's, hey, this individual's just didn't disrespect you. Why would you need to disrespect them? And I've been very fortunate. Lisa still gets worried because some people don't like that interaction. I've been very fortunate with the response coming back as, "I'm sorry, I was just having a bad day." Hey, that's okay. And now all of a sudden we're friends instead of enemies, and the person behind the counter that is just trying to get through the day because they've already had 500 people telling them that they're no good. How cool is it to be able to have that opportunity to go, somebody actually stuck up for me today. And I don't need them to know who I am. I don't know that being a better person doesn't, if you're going to be a better man, if you're going to be a better person or a better individual, if you're looking for, what word am I looking for? If you're looking for that appreciation factor every time you do something, where let's take a picture and let's post it on Facebook, That's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. So, again, going back to the is it, isn't it, is it, isn't it? Honor both of them. Because right now you're having a fight.
There's a third.
Okay?
And it just, in this whole thing, you know, I maybe it doesn't matter if there is or there isn't.
Okay?
Because at the end of the day, there's really only one person we can change.
Exactly.
Right? It's what's in between the two shoulders. That's the only thing I can change.
Something popped. May I grab it?
Yeah.
So one thing that I always like to do too is honoring the perspectives of the mentors that have given us what we have, because it's not ours. You know, it's a you know, we talked about Marcus Aurelius. That's 2,000 years ago. You know, I taught Jack Canfield. I taught John Miller. I taught Byron Katie. I taught Simon Sinek. I taught, you know, there's all these beautiful people that have given us such incredible messages. So I still to this day, why I wonder if I've got it at the so there's certain things that are, I love synchronicity, and how I would say that's God's way of remaining anonymous. You know, ask me how I can be guided to be helpful, and how is this where it is? Anyway, so it's called a QBQ twist, and it's from John G. Miller. I think I've probably shared with him too, but it says, you may already be familiar with the Serenity Prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So he says, here's a QBQ twist for all of us. God grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the one I can, and the wisdom to know it's me.
Wow.
Pretty cool, eh?
Wow.
You know, and that's where awareness says, if I'm gonna change the world, I gotta start here. You know, there was another quote, and I'm trying to remember how it went. You know, yesterday I was smart and I thought I could change the world, but today I'm wise and realize I can only change me. Something to that effect. I didn't honor the quote right, so excuse me, whoever said it,
But in essence, the exercise is not futile.
no.
Whether we can help a vast number of people, whether we can help a few or one other person, or whether the entire exercise is just an exercise of recommitment to helping ourselves, it's still worth doing.
Yes. You remember when we first sat down and we were having that conversation, you know, if you want to do a reference or a reference point to it, I have to fill my bucket. I have to have something to give away. If I want to give some money to somebody, I have to have some money to be able to give it away. If I want to water a plant, I have to have water in my bucket. It's a reality that has, so how do I give away what I don't have? If I don't love myself, how do I love somebody else? If I haven't learned to love and appreciate who I am, yes, ego's gonna fight you. Yes, ego's gonna say, self-doubt, you're no good, this isn't working. Yet my higher self is going to say, you've got everything you need. Ask for the direction and I'll give it to you. Fulfill what you are as an individual, you know, as the QBQ twist says. What is it that I can do? You know, what can I do to make the difference? Not, you know, I could be wrong here, John F. Kennedy, don't do what, how does that go?
Ask not what you can do for your country.
Yeah, but what...
Or not, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Yes. Was that Kennedy?
Maybe it was Kennedy.
Anyways.
For some reason, my mind was going to Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King. Do you remember Coming to America? Well, I met Martin Luther King. Yes. You did not meet Martin Luther King. Yes, I did. I met Martin Luther King.
Very good.
Martin Luther King, I believe. Like, just when you say that, I believe, it just gives me truth bumps again. Because it's such as, I don't have a plan, you know, because that reference to I believe, if he would have stood up there and said, I have a plan, this is what I think you're going to want to do, he said, I believe. And people, there was, so when Martin Luther King made that big difference, there was, I believe, 500,000 people showed up for that.
Mm-hmm.
There was no media, no internet, no, you know, and they said, well, they showed up because they wanted to listen to his speech. They showed, and it was a mixture of people. It was a society of, there was African American and the white. Everybody was there. There was mixed cultures, and they came for themselves. They came because they believed too. They believed that there was an opportunity to make a difference, and you know, and he was so stronghold to it, to make that difference, that somebody that didn't like the difference that he was making got rid of him. You know, and my dad would always say, Shawn, nobody will ever kick a dead dog. Because I would always say, Dad, you know, sometimes I get involved in these conversations and I become so protective and I want to make a difference, and but I get booted. And he goes, nobody will kick a dead dog. And I've always remembered that, to the point of being a better man, making a difference, having that opportunity to do those small things that seem insignificant but are huge. And you know, going back to your Starfish, I love that one, because yeah, there's millions of people out there. Well, there's billions on the planet now. For us to have an opportunity, if we want to transition into your second question, for us to have the ability to save that one individual, the ripple effect that came from that, and what they've done to contribute to society, oh my goodness. Now, I won't say the names, but I can close my eyes. I can tell you one specific individual that was struggling with addiction. Mom tried everything, spent a lot of the inheritance, because the dad had passed away, to bring her son back because of the love and dedication that she had for this young man, and wasn't getting anywhere, and said, Shawn, I heard through somebody else that, you know, I'm at a loss, whatever it takes, can you work with Darren? And I went, yeah. I go, I don't, like, the beauty of making a difference is sometimes is just allowing it to unfold. Instead of going in and being the advice monster, it's about being a good listener and asking the right questions to dig deep enough so that they can express, so that they have, so, because what happens in counseling is, I'm going to tell you what you need to do. And we all know in today's society, to be should on sometimes develops a lot of resistance. To be asked certain questions, and then I go, so if I did that, that would work? All of a sudden becomes, so again, I can only change me. So if you offer that avenue of development from a perspective of self-awareness and creating that piece, it changes everything. Short story long, this young man is flourishing with a beautiful family. He's got 2 beautiful kids, married, he's got a great job, whereas before was on just a path that
led to a very dark place.
Very, very dark place. Was it me? No. Was it the information that I had from the people that have taught me? Sure. Was I guided? Absolutely. You know, from the perspective of that one starfish. You know, and I look at it and go, what has he done for the society and the city that he lives in now, and the contribution, and his kids are beautiful beings, and you know, he was living every day not wanting to be on this planet. I still keep in touch. I'm very fortunate to get Christmas letters, and that, oh my goodness, that's got to be 15 years. You know, and and there's more of that. And I remember used to saying, this is cooking me out. Why, like, the energy that comes from what you give out was completely exhausting me. And then I remember saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this. This is hard. And yeah, I'm very fortunate. It's so fortunate that they're still contributing as good human beings. So fortunate, and I'm so blessed for that. Yet it was wearing me out. And then it stopped. So then all of a sudden it was just, things were good. And then it came up again. How did I handle it differently? I made sure my bucket was full.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know I'm supposed to be helping to lead the conversation for our audience, whoever that person may be. But you're giving me a lot to ponder. It's good. My mind is going in different directions. I was doing the yeah buts in my head, right?
Do you know what yeah but does? Okay, I'll give you a perfect scenario. So you go home to your beautiful wife. Oh my gosh, your hair looks amazing. You've got your lipstick, makeup is spectacular. I love the outfit you picked, but those shoes. What is where everything that you just said gone? Because she's going, what's wrong with my shoes? You ass, right? And so part of our peace is awareness to our language. You know, I remember something because it just popped up. Try but should just not. Try gives us, I'm going to try. Until one is committed, there's hesitancy, a chance to draw back, always ineffective. You know, if I try, am I committed? No. Because if I'm just trying and it doesn't work, then, you know, there's certain things you would try. Hey, try this chocolate bar. That's a different perspective. I'm going to try to spend more time filling my bucket. You ain't going to do crap. Right? But, so we just talked about but. Should, actually, you know, for me, you should on somebody, it's resistant. It's pushing a wet spaghetti noodle across the counter. It doesn't work. And right away, everybody's tail feathers goes up when you should on them. Don't shit on people. Just is justifying. If I have to justify what I do, then I'm just trying to feed my ego. You know, hey, here's a perfect example of justification, and I have to say, in terms of guidance, I was wonderfully guided to make this work amazingly. So I'm going to say it was my higher self, not my ego, because my ego was still there. A customer came in, was choked at how he was treated by another one of the staff member. Obviously, calls me, hey, this individual said this and was like this, and it's unacceptable. And he's mad. And I'm like, okay. So I called the individual. I said, Dane, can you just come up here front? I'd like to have a conversation with you. So Dane's coming. The customer sees Dane coming. Well, now the two guys that were doing this are now getting, and you could just feel the energy, right? But I went into it with a perspective of mediation. And my ego said, protect your tribe. Yeah. No matter what, you protect him even though he was ignorant. And so I said, Dane, I just brought you, I wanted you two together because I'd like to make sure that the stories are real. And it was fun because I caught myself in saying to myself, it's not about justification here. And then I said, sir, you know what? I get your story. Dane, I get yours. I said, but what's our ultimate goal here? What's the intention of us to do what we want to do to make a difference, to make this better? I said, is it to create a relationship, or is it to continue on justifying each other's behaviors when it was just a behavior? You probably are not having the greatest of day because you need to get out of here. You're getting frustrated because you wanted to get out of here, so I understand it. You're justifying it. Don't justify it. But if you two can get along and we can say, hey, this is good to go, without any holds. Like, I will stand here until all of a sudden, because I can tell the difference. anyways, when the customer comes in now, he asks for Dane. And they smile, they get along, they have conversation, you know, so again, that was kind of a long story to be able to do it, yet, so that segues into something fun though. Because if I, you know, here's your two pieces of opinion. Remember I read that thing about deceit and perception? So if I take the customer story, I'm gonna pull Dane aside after he's gone. Why did you treat that customer like that? Well, he called me this and he called me that. Oh, I didn't know about that. Versus uniting the two for truth. So, you know, because there's the customer's truth, there's Dane's truth, and there's the truth. Mm. So bringing them together with a loving mediator, not a you know, if you talk lawyer side, there's one defending and one's, you know, so you bring that, you unite them together, and so again, that's where you and I have an opportunity to make a difference, because we can mediate that plan, because yet we can only do that if our buckets are full. So I know I went on a lot about just. Try but should just not. And not is not. And that's not going to work. Thanks for letting me share that.
I'm drinking from a fire hose again. That's just great.
Inspired for thought, but the questions that you ask and the energy that I sit in and this opportunity to be here is justified by inspired. So inspired comes from inspirited. So what you have within is something that you can share that's authentic. If I'm thinking with my thinking head, I can memorize that my success principles, Jack Canfield, I love him dearly. I've basically almost memorized. I would sit in a room and he'd say, "Hey Shawn, what, you know, we'd be at a seminar with 300 people. Hey Shawn, what principle is success principle number 19? Use feedback to your advantage, Jack," because I'd be in the back of the room with the microphone. I go, "I think it's on page 187, and he'd be, "What a geek. This guy is a geek." So, but that's my thinking head, right? How often can you sit in, you know, when you're really making a difference and you're having a conversation and you've said something and then you go, "Where did that come from?" You ever had that piece? Going, "Wow, that was, that's inspired. That's what comes from within. That's your higher self. That's not your ego speaking, that's your heart speaking. That's impactful. I mean, guide me for what I need to do for the conduit of helping somebody else out and making a difference and being a better man. Guide me. Not speak of what I have to say. You know, anytime I would do a seminar, anytime I would do a talk, I would reach out to whoever's doing the organizer. What do you want to hear? I don't need to come in and tell you what I think you need to hear. I'm going to honor what do you want? That's why you ask me the questions you ask me. That's why you and I have this conversation. We play tennis. We serve to each other, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
So, in your mind, I mean, we've talked a few sort of a few circles around the concept of, you know, being a better man. But if you had to surmise or define what is a better man, what is a better man?
Awareness of oneself to be the best version that you can possibly be. Be a good human being. Take the pieces, take the gifts, understand that we're, you know, there's a really neat story about where I'm gonna take this inner awesomeness, this better symbol, and mankind, we'll call it all human beings. What I'm gonna do with this symbol is and there's a conversation between two people. I'm gonna take this symbol and I'm gonna put it at the highest mountains so they'd have to go through the highest lengths to get there. And the other person says, well, somebody's eventually gonna go up there and find it. So it's and then everybody's gonna find it. Okay, let's bury it in the deepest of oceans. Because it'll be so deep, nobody will ever find it. Well, eventually somebody will. So where do we plant this incredible greatness seed? Where can we put it so that there's so much that needs to be done to discover it? Where can we put it? Well, I got it. Let's bury it in the souls of every individual that is born. And it's up to them to discover it. It's up to them to uncover it. It's up to them to be able to discover what their purposes are and figure things out and understand the two emotions and the differences that go with it. And going back into November 11, remember who you are. Remember that from Lion King? Remember when Simba was looking in the water? And all of a sudden, he didn't know who he was. He was Hakuna Matata. He was, hunting worms and grubs. And all of a sudden, went and chased the monkey, and then he came to the pond, and he was looking in the pond, and he's distraught. And he looks, and then all of a sudden it's a reflection of his father, and his father says, Simba, remember who you are. Ooh, I got chills on that one. Remember who you are. We are born with brilliance. We're born with, there's only two fears you're born with, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. That's it. Everything else we've created. Mind, state, parents, church, everything else is created in terms of what it is that we're fearful of. Everything. Go back to remembering who you are. And that's where my journey is leading to me right now, is going back to those pieces. And sometimes it's a kick in the you-know-whats to say, Shawn, what's going on? Like, there's behaviors that are going on that are not of who I've known you to be. Now, your ego could go, who are you to tell me? I'll fight that because I'm being shit on. Or, what is it that I need to do to rediscover the brilliance that I once was, instead of having all these crazy thoughts of fear of doubt, crazy thoughts of not being good enough, crazy thoughts of there's no opportunities anymore. Where? Remember who you are. And that's an opportunity for human beings like you and I to be able to make a difference for that young man that is no longer here. Yet his memories and his love are still cherished within our hearts. He's no longer here on this plane. Learn from the lessons of what we do for the starfish that's still sitting on that beach. Because we can, coming from a corrections background, get jaded pretty fast. My heart goes to every RCMP officer that gets spit on, yelled at. Can you imagine? Day after day after day, you're doing what you're doing to protect society, and you are looked upon as garbage. How does that affect you? Oh my. People that have never been in that, it's hard to understand. So even from that perspective is, how do I become so full? Jack Canfield talks, there's one in there about, it's called the green hair exercise. If I was to sit here and say, Peter, you're the biggest jackass I've ever met in my life, I can't believe that, what you're saying it makes no relevance to any of this conversation. Your ego is attacked. Whereas if I say, Peter, you have green hair, what the hell is the difference? Because your response is, I don't have green hair. What's he talking about? Why would you agree to what I told you in the first place? Instead of going, no, I don't. My bucket's full. You know what? They're not having a great day. I'm not going to take that personal. I'm not going to, there's another one just popped up. Sorry. Don Miguel Ruiz, 4 agreements. Part of it, one of his four agreements. I should have brought my glasses, but that's okay. I didn't. The first agreement that he talks about is be impeccable with your word. The second, don't take anything personally. You have green hair. You're an asshole. It's what you decide to accept. No, I'm not. I might be. Here's a neat way to transition out of that thought process, though. I might be behaving like one, a behavior I can change. When you're attacking my personality, my ego, I'm gonna fight back. There's some cool stuff around it too.
You know, in a lot of what we've kind of batted back and forth, it reminds me of, you know, just my profession, storytelling. You know, there's a progression and there's a formula for a good story. There's always this, you know, at the end of Act 3 going into Act 4, we have the climax of the story. There's this pivotal moment where this massive change takes place. You know, I think of my life, and I think of a trajectory that I was on in my youth, and then the first time, and there have been many since, where I became really connected with my mortality, where it was a turning point for me, where I tried to make an exit. And you know, that was a pivotal change point in my life. I'm wondering, is that rock bottom someplace that we all have to hit before that change can take place? Or can change take place without hitting rock bottom? Right? I think about what we're surrounded with. We have all these crises, from homelessness to mental health. I mean, mental health side, right, is just
huge.
Yeah, it's.
But think of dead. What does that mean to you?
Nothing.
Done. Right? And the reality behind, so realistically, you know, you have to hit rock bottom, can be visualized in terms of saying, I'm going to die. There's it's reality. Going back to a little bit of Marcus Aurelius in the Meditations, it's called memento mori, so it's attaching to the understanding. He used to have skulls all over the place. Because reality is, that's what's going to happen. Now, whether you're a CEO of a successful company or whether you're the best bed maker at the janitor office, you get buried in the same damn dirt. Your plot is not different based on what you've done. You're gone. And so rock bottom is reality today. Versus, you know, because we say we need, you have to break down before a breakthrough. Awareness precedes choice, which precedes results. Right? So if I'm aware that I'm going to die, and I'm going to live a spectacular life, that's rock bottom. If you really think about it. How do I contribute? How do I make a difference today? Starfish. You know, write your 100th birthday speech, man. Because that's realistically the end of what it is. And if you wrote your 100th birthday speech and you were addressing the crowd, what would you want to be remembered by?
Right. To write your obituary and think of how you want to be remembered. And it's empowering.
Because the reality is that brings you back to the present moment. Because that's where everything is now. You know, and writing that gives you an opportunity to be in the now. You know, but let's be realistic. I can write a beautiful obituary of how I want to be remembered. Are you going to remember it in a year? No. Am I going to be replaced in a year? Absolutely. That's the reality behind it. So, you know, we might think, oh, go ahead.
But it's not for others to remember. If you're writing your own obituary, it's to remind yourself.
Absolutely. So great point. It's bringing it back to the presence of now as to how do I live now? How do I want to live now? How do I want to contribute to making a difference now? Not that it's going to be written on my whatever at the cemetery there,
You don't want it written in stone, you want it written in people's hearts.
There you go. Exactly. And how beautiful it is to be able to go to the grocery store today and leave that better man, better person to the person that just gave you what they were giving you to make their day. That's a true in the now obituary.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we all have our emotions. We all have things that don't necessarily go. Yeah. How long have you been married?
May 1st will be 30 years.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I'm going to get shot on this because I'm on camera, but I'm over 30. Has there been trials and tribulations? Oh my gosh. Oh, for sure.
They were all my fault.
It's a better way to do it because then that way, especially being, yes, okay, I get what you mean. Yeah, I always say, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Mm.
Anyways, what I'm kind of alluding to is the fact that, you know, there's bumpy to it, and where I like to use an analogy of marriage is, let's just picture floating down the river on a beautiful sunny day, and you and I are in this air mattress, and there's a cooler of beer in between us, and we're just inspired by the loveliness of the air, and everything is just, and we're in this awe state, and we're floating around, and we're in awe. But 2 miles down from where we're floating in awe is a waterfall. Okay, so we're just going along, life's great, and then it gets a little bit bumpy. That's weird, we say to ourselves. Wow, okay, it shouldn't be anything. I'm not learning anything from it. Oh, it gets a little more bumpy. I'm not learning anything from it. Over you go. I haven't learned anything from it. I haven't taken anything from it. Versus it's getting bumpy. Peter, maybe you and I should have a conversation about how we're probably going to want to start getting to shore. Let's talk about how we can make this better. Because how many times in your relationship do you not talk? I can put my hand up and be guilty for, I'm just not going to say anything. So if you and I are floating down the river and we're not talking to each other because we're just looking and going like this, well, again, what do we learn? What are we doing? What can I do right now? And what can you do so that we can contribute to moving ourselves to? It's still bumpy, but we got to shore. Mm. How many times have you heard families going on camping trips where the weather was just horrible, and it was muddy, and they couldn't cook, and the fire went out, and this and this and this and this and this and this, and the bonding that comes from the learning from some of the not greatest things are the most impactful.
Not to mention the fact that maybe it's the waterfall that helps us to appreciate what that wonderful calm patch. You said it was awe-inspiring. Mm-hmm. Why did it inspire awe? If that's all we ever experience, it's just another day.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
We can't appreciate the truly wonderful, awe-inspiring things that are out there today in our lives without having experienced the turmoil as well.
What are you grateful for, Peter?
Well, I'm grateful for you.
Okay.
Being here today.
Okay.
I am grateful that after saying goodbye to my family 7 times, I'm here to witness my granddaughter coming into this world.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What else?
I'm grateful for being able to fill my days with speaking to people about things and working on things that matter to me. Learn new things every day. I don't have a boring job. I love my job. Not getting rich doing my job, but I love my job. I love what I do.
Loving your job is emotional. liking your job is rational. Do you like your wife or do you love your wife?
There's a joke here. For the longest time, my wife would say, I like you. Long after we got married, her, response would be, I like you.
Mm-hmm.
What, really?
Oh, good.
You married me because you like me?
Yeah.
I like my wife and I love my wife.
Mm.
But love is an action,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lot of people misinterpret love as that, and don't get me wrong, I feel butterflies for my wife, even after 30 years. But love is not that emotion you feel when you're first courting,
No.
right?
No.
I think that love is that investment that, for deep love, for you to experience deep love, you have to really invest and work at it, right? It's like putting money in the bank. Yeah, it's as much an action as it is a feeling, I think.
Mm-hmm. And it's based around the premise of being unconditional.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have to do something for me to love you, that's not love.
No.
I'll love you if is not love.
No.
Not at all. You know what? This is really cool. So I get to honor my mother a little bit, who passed away in July. I told you that. So my dad went and did her eulogy. Got up, and he said 3 words: love, love, love. And he went and sat down. And it was powerful. We all knew what he meant. We all felt what he felt. We appreciated what he was saying. It was all that needed to be said. Not from the perspective of what let's call it what my mother left behind, but what was sitting in that room honoring my mother. Because, again, that was what was in that room. That was Dad's dream. Now, whether people wanted to love him back didn't matter. And that's what I love about my dad, is he holds that piece. He holds what you're talking about, the actions behind what he does. The church was filled because of my dad. Yes, my mom contributed to lots of great things. There was people that traveled from all over the country to support Dad, but because he was loving, and the eulogy was love, and everything that I'm going through right now is based around that perspective. When you can fill your bucket full of that, it's a pretty full bucket. Again, may I ask you another question? What do you love about yourself?
It's a loaded question.
Mm-hmm.
I can't answer that without going back.
Go back.
So,
What do you love about yourself, Peter?
For the longest time, Shawn, I didn't love myself.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, I hated myself. I grew up in Merritt, and I had 2 sisters that passed away in Merritt before I hit my mid-teens. And I was a brutal older brother, as often brothers are.
Yeah.
But I was particularly, I think, needy to a certain perspective. The attention was all on me for the first 2 years, and then suddenly I have these sisters that have these medical conditions that take all the attention away from me, and I was no longer center stage, and I needed that attention, and I was going through things too, and it wasn't there, and so my poor sisters took the brunt of my pains and frustrations, and my sister Heather, who my daughter is named after, took the brunt of a lot of my frustrations. And I was a terrible brother, and she was a loving angel of a sister. No matter what I did to her, she was always there for more, with hugs and kisses and all the things that big brothers don't want. It wasn't forgiveness, because there was never any blame to begin with. It was something else. She was a amazing person with just unconditional love for her older brother. And I was, at least looking back on it, I feel that, I did some pretty evil things to my sister. And she passed away during an epileptic seizure after being sent to her room for something that I had done. My father went to her room, brought her out onto the kitchen floor as he dialed 911, and she finished her seizure and passed away there. And I carried that with me as long as I could, and then tried to take my own life, cutting my wrist. And I failed miserably. I was found. And so I had to carry this burden, this hate for myself for a really long time. Even up to when I met Tanya. And it was her that started to teach me what she loved about me, the good that she still saw in me. So, I love that I have a capacity to care about others. Once again. It's easy to be jaded. Quite often I'm surrounded by a lot of people in this business that are all different colors of jade.
Nobody kicks a dead dog.
But I am not charred to the bone.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little Chicago.
That's a lot of people's favorite, by the way. Yeah.
But I'm not charred to the bone.
Yeah.
The charcoal on my surface is adds a little bit of flavor and capacity to understand.
Mm-hmm.
But I still have a lot of love for this world and for people. And I just want to help.
Do you remember what a 1965 Mustang was worth in 1965? Approximately.
No, I don't remember.
Well,
but I
approximately,
can
probably.
guess.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I hope I don't get it wrong, but I'm thinking like $500.
Yeah, I think more like 2379 was
Oh,
the
okay.
top of the line.
Right.
Okay. What do you think it's worth today? Top of the line, convertible, pony interior.
So not Eleanor, but
No, just like a brand new. You paid $2,300 for it in 1965.
oh, and then a 2023 model.
Today, well, no, you take that same car from 1965. What's it worth today?
Fully restored.
Yep,
Um,
showroom quality, babied, fixed, polished.
$250,000.
Yeah. You know what it was and what we've gone through. We've learned so much. Might not, you know, the worthiness might have not been back when we were younger. Yet attaching to and the lessons and the people that we've come across and the polishing that we've done and the care that we've given, all of a sudden, you know, the investment that we've put into something as much as that is worth gazillion times more than what it was in the beginning. And being a better man is about polishing, it's about working, it's about, you know, did that car hit lots of bumps? I guarantee. Did it have flat tires? 100%. Motor blew? Probably dozens of times. Transmission changed? Damn rights. Oil needed to be changed? All the time. Scars? Sure. I remember when we were kids and Dad told me not to do that, and I backed into the Lincoln with his brand new car with my car, and that's where that was. I don't see it. Yeah, but it sure taught me something. Mm-hmm. And now you've got something beautiful that represents the care and or it could end up in the junkyard and flattened in a square. It's your choice. You know, now you drive it with pride. This space, the people that are here honoring you to create what you keep creating. It's a pretty nice Mustang. You know, and you know, thank you for sharing the story, and that was beautiful. And the gratitude piece is something that there's so much here, and you and I have a great history for gratitude, for purpose, for making a difference, for continuously doing what we're doing. You know, and you know, failure is a word. Yet I think we've fallen down and stood up more than the actual. You know, sometimes failure is a word and it's truthful. Yet sometimes it's pretty harsh because fail is like, I got an F, I'm done. I ain't graduating. Whereas if I fell down, well, I got back up and studied a little bit harder and I got a D. And they put me through just because they wanted to get out of high school. We don't want that kid around anymore. I always said I was the part of the class that made the top half possible. So I contributed somehow.
Yeah.
You know, and those are those things. Those are the pieces. Those are the lessons that make us better people. That you know, and being rock bottom is a perspective of thought. You know, you've got your little hourglass there. Have you seen that Bob Proctor one when he was 85?
Mm.
And he talked about, you know, so he kept flipping it over and he would say, you know, time, so what's up on top of here is going through. If I put a card over the bottom, I don't know what's already gone. And I can flip it over and get more time. And he points to the middle of the hourglass and he goes, where it's going through, right? That's the most important piece. That's right there. And I really liked it. I thought, well, and I just saw it a couple days ago, and it just, yeah, you know, that perspective of what we learned, yet taking what we've learned and what we're doing right now. There's nothing else going on in this world except this conversation. It's here. It's an opportunity. It's now. It's what we learn from it. It's what we share together. It's camaraderie. It's brotherhood, sisterhood. It's being good human beings.
Yeah, we're often called and told to be not present in the moment. All these distractions. That's why I like that you chose today.
Yeah. And I didn't choose today. It was chosen for us.
Yeah.
perspective of the energy of the authenticity of our conversation that gave us this date. Remember.
Even driving here to the studio this morning, I wasn't surrounded by road rage.
I know.
There was nobody on the road.
Where's everybody? Yeah. Hey, I haven't driven that far without getting the bird in about 4 weeks. What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good day. It's a good day today.
Yeah. You made it a good day, and thank you for making it a good day. You know, it's commitment. I'll repeat that again. Until one is committed, there's hesitancy, a chance to draw back. Always ineffectiveness. Commitment.
Say that again.
See, it came from my heart, not my head. Hang on. Until one is committed, there's hesitancy, a chance to draw back. Always ineffectiveness. It was, I think, Goethe, G-O-T-H-E. There's a neat poem that comes through that, but that's that top piece. You know, commitment. I'll always say, you know, one of the true pieces for me is what I would reference, and I love mentoring, and I think I shared with you the 4 C's. I sent it to you. You know, so, and that first one is commitment. You know, I need to be committed. I have to have both feet in the pool. Whether it's marriage, whether it's job, whether you want to inspire, whether you want to be motivated, whether you want to succeed, you got to commit. You know, and then with commitment comes the creativity. So then I become creative, and I have the opportunity to think, to quiet my mind, to slow it down, to be present. That's my creative. Then I collaborate. You and I sit together and we collaborate ideas. We talk to other people. And we bring brilliance into the energetic piece that we're living in now. And the brilliance that comes from that, and the ideas that come from that collaboration and acceptance, from a non-judgmental piece, or you brainstorm for brilliance, we'll call it, where you just tell me more. You know, if I said to you the first idea, no, that's silly, I've shut you down. Tell me more. That is brilliant. So collaboration becomes an important part. And then communication. How do we communicate the conversations that we just sat and had? You know, and part of communication is waiting. And what I mean by waiting is W-A-I-T, why am I talking? Communication sometimes is sitting on your hands and listening. You know, I can sit with Lisa, my wife, and we could say, we spent incredible 2.5 hours together watching a movie. What kind of interaction was that? Versus sitting right knee to knee, looking each other in the eye, and talking for 2 minutes. You want quality, or do you want quantity? Oh yeah, we had a great family day. We sat and watched 5 Disney movies. Wow. Now, that's my ego being judgmental.
Yeah.
Yet, I just look at it from that, you know, the last C of my 4 C's is the communication piece. Communicate with your heart, communicate unconditional love, communicate what we can do better, communicate what it is that we can become, how we can become better men, or a better man. And how do we communicate it? We share it. We be it. Remember who you are. And if we be it, like I said, our interactions with people today is going to be pretty cool because of the energy that we're holding right now and the brilliance and the guidance that we've had in this conversation that thus far has been absolutely energetically amazing. How do we make sure that we chuck a couple extra starfishes?